It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. It's playoff season. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague in a danger zone in Rayford. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Playoff time.
This is literally why we lift all those weights, if, we lifted weights.
Yeah, to watch two garbage 7 seeds that don't deserve to get into the playoffs play through awful games for our entertainment. Yeah, it's great.
That's what I
Super
love.
wildcard weekend. Wonderful.
That's what I love about you, Neil. Your positive mental attitude. I think you'll find that the teams with like the worst positions are actually division winners. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, and spoiler alert, I'm going to pick at least one of them to win a game later on in the show. This week, no fancy really. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the main events to look at coaching openings as they are now. We're going to give you our preference of which team we would pick and which team we would avoid like the plague. We're then going to do a darlings and losers concept, how this concept works for those who are at home, and also Neil. One person per team is allowed in your squad of a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end. There's no money involved, there's no DFS or whatever. It's just which players do you think will succeed this week and which players won't. But you're only allowed to pick one player. So, for example, you couldn't pick the whole Buffalo Bills against the Miami Dolphins, for example. We will do that for loser and for darling, and then we will give you our picks, not against the spread, just straight up. We just want to know who you think will be playing next weekend when Neil's team joins the fray. So without further ado, let us get on with the main event.
Time now for the main event.
So right now, there are 5 teams looking for a head coach. Those teams are the Arizona Cardinals, the Carolina Panthers, the Denver Broncos, the Houston Texans, and the Indianapolis Colts. Me and Neil were discussing earlier. We think there's a high possibility that 3 to 4 more teams will become available based on whether they lose this weekend. We're looking at you, Dallas, and I'm going to just call them San Diego. We know that Tampa seat is filled up, and Neil assumes that at the most inappropriate but most fortunate time for this person, the LA Rams will also need a new head coach. We can't talk about them right now, so what we're going to do is for the 5 teams that we have, we're going to say which franchise we would pick and which franchise we would totally avoid. Let's start positive, Neil. Of the 5 available franchise jobs, which one would you take first?
The first one I would take, if I wanted to come in and have some short-term success, would be the Broncos. Now, the reason I say short-term success is I think they are built that with adequate offensive coaching, they could be good for 2 years. I think they could turn around very quickly, assuming Russell Wilson can be turned around. But I think with the fact that they gave up so much for Wilson and that the players on the team are now going to start needing to be paid, and they haven't got the draft capital in to bolster the coffers, in year 3, they may be looking down the barrel again and going, yeah, we're not very good again. But for the quick turnaround job that might make them an attractive team for free agents and whatnot, I would take the Denver Broncos.
Interesting. I understand the concept, apart from the fact you seem to have forgotten how Russell Wilson played this year. But, apart from that, I'm sure there's a perfectly logical reason why you picked the Denver Broncos. What I would say is they do have a good roster and a fan base and a team that want to win. I think that's fair, right? Some of these teams, we're looking at you, Houston, have not shown in recent years that they actually want to win games. So at least we can say that they want to win. My pick is not the Denver Broncos. My pick is the Carolina Panthers. I believe they have an excellent roster, with one major exception, which is obviously quarterback. However, the difference between the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers is the Carolina Panthers aren't playing somewhere in the region of $200 million for a quarterback they're not particularly sure about. Do I need to find a quarterback? Yes. Am I only 9th in the draft? Yes. Can I help? Can I use the picks that I got for Christian McCaffrey plus future draft picks to get into a position to draft a quarterback? Yes, I can. add that to the players I already have on my roster, and I think the best team to go for out of those 5 is the Carolina Panthers.
The nomination of the roster of the Panthers as being excellent is by far one of the strangest things
not
you've
excellent.
ever said.
Excellent in comparison to the rest of these teams. I've only got 5 teams, right? They're as good as the Denver Broncos.
They have DJ Moore on offense.
Okay.
The Broncos have got, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick coming back.
We're going to do this
Albert
again.
Okoye,
We're going to do that. The Denver Broncos have had those players for 4 years and have been rubbish on offense all 4 years. So at some point, someone will believe that maybe, just maybe, those players are overrated.
But so it's they're overrated. But we'll go with the
one of these
the
teams
powerhouse
won games
Panthers
with good coaching. One of these teams in the back half of the season won more games than they lost with Sam Darnold as their quarterback. I therefore believe they are probably better than the Denver Broncos, who have, paying $250 million for Russell Wilson.
The one issue I have with the Panthers is that I think that the Broncos, they've done this now. They've had this turnover of coaches. I think that these owners are going to be not impatient. They're going to want results. Whereas I think we've seen that David Tepper is about as stable as a Russian nuclear reactor when it comes to sitting and considering making a decision.
But what we don't know yes, I agree with that. But what we don't know is what this ownership model is going to do. Because at the moment they haven't done anything. Well, they fired a coach. They were left with a coach they didn't want, a quarterback they didn't want, and people will say they weren't involved in the paying process. They were buying that franchise before that payment was being made, so they were more than aware of it. So right now they've made one decision, which was to pay a guy who, by week 16, had more bathrooms in his house than touchdowns on the field.
I mean, usually when these jobs open up, it's because the team is bad. Yes. And the front office has been bad. But if you look at the ownership of these teams, these are not necessarily the types of people you'd want to be working for.
Let's move on to that, Neil. Which of these 5 would you avoid like the plague?
The Texans. I know there's 32 of these jobs and they don't come up every year, but I do not want anything to do with that team. As you've said, they have no interest in winning. They are staining the waters of the NFL by their very presence. Everything they do is disgusting. There's no class about this organization at all. Organizationally, from a cultural point of view, they're great players of the past. Don't want anything to do with this team. Andre Johnson doesn't have any contact with this team, I don't think. JJ Watt probably doesn't either. D'Amico Ryans, it screams out, there's your hire. D'Amico Ryans is not an idiot. I think it's given the choice of, okay, you can be head coach, but only the Texans, or stay with the 49ers. Yeah, I think I'll get a job next year. Literally, I don't know. We've seen in the past what it took for the NFL owners to force a sale of a team. I don't know how close the NFL are coming to saying, we're just taking this team off you.
I hear what you're saying, but there's a queue. A big Washington-shaped queue. So Houston, get to the back. I knew you were going to pick Houston, so I would pick a different team. Scattergun owners who you can't trust from one moment to the next, who possibly may hire their best friend. I'm picking the Indianapolis Colts. At points throughout the last 20 years, while we've been watching, this team has been excellent. Because they've had really excellent quarterbacks. When they haven't, they've been bad. And this owner is erratic. Like, let's fire Frank Reich, who is a professional, to hire Jeff Saturday, who has never coached before. He won his first game and then, I assume, did his job, which was to lose all the other games to get them into a position to have a quarterback. However, I'm not convinced by Ballard, like his long-term future, right? So if I take that job and we're not good next year, which is highly possible, Ballard gets fired. Then there's a new GM in place, and the sword of Damocles now hangs over me as that GM did not pick me. And at any moment, Jim Irsay may do an interview and get me fired. So I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, it sounds simplistic to say, but everything that's gone wrong with the Colts over the last 4 years has been because of the quarterback position. Now, obviously, they can't be held responsible for Andrew Luck making decisions for his own health and well-being.
Of course.
And obviously, if you lose a franchise quarterback in that regard, they don't come on trees. So they had, Jacoby Brissett, who was okay. Then they had Phil Rivers, who didn't have a lot left. They bet the farm for Carson Wentz and got burned by it. Matt Ryan was he could be better than Carson Wentz, or he could be absolute toast. But everything in place around him, and say this is where it comes down to where Chris Ballard probably didn't do his best job. You had Michael Pittman, that was it at wide receiver. Jonathan Taylor's an excellent running back, I know, but he was, his workload suggested that if he did get hurt, it was probably going to be a bad one. And this season, he missed 3 games twice with 2 different ankle injuries. But it wasn't his fault. He was playing poorly. The offensive line wasn't making space, wasn't creating holes. And teams were just like, well, we can just stop Taylor because you've got no one to beat us on the outside. And say the defense was good in places, but when the offense is so bad, you're asking the impossible. So, yeah, they did fire Frank Reich just to make sure that he didn't accidentally coach them to 5 or 6 wins. But they are terrible, and they are in the they're in the bottom barrel of NFL teams.
The interesting thing is, like, they lost to, it seems like a million years ago, they lost to the worst team in the league, the Jacksonville Jaguars, to miss the playoffs. Jim Irsay lost his shizzle and said, get that quarterback, who had been okay. He'd been being managed well by Frank Reich. Get rid of him. I don't want to see his ginger face anymore. Fine. You then bring Matt Ryan, who is worse under Frank Reich than Carson Wentz was. This division is not very good. If he actually would have kept Carson Wentz, there's a possibility they might win the division, which they probably don't want to do because then you're in purgatory world, right? So in theory, Jim Irsay might say this is all part of some kind of crazy master plan that's got him in a situation where he's going to, get the next Andrew Luck, the next Peyton Manning. And if it does, words cannot describe how mad I will be. These effing franchises, yes, you Indianapolis, yes, you Green Bay, do one. Some of us have never had a franchise quarterback, and you just so happen to, every time you're bad, pick up another one. No more. Not all of our teams are quarterback factories, Neil. Do you know what I mean? Some of us have to pick them up on the draft, or Indianapolis scrap heap. God, if he's in my team again this year, words cannot describe how mad I will be. Anyway, that is it. Neil picked Broncos. Unbelievably, he likes Ciara. I picked the Panthers, and maybe, just maybe, overestimated the possibility that their roster's good. They are in the NFC South, though. Another bonus. That's one thing we didn't say. Neil's like, I'd like to play Patrick Mahomes twice a year. He's only beaten me 18 times on the run.
They're due.
And then Neil picked the Texans, and because, it's a show, we couldn't both pick the Texans, so I picked the Indianapolis Colts, who are a close second.
What a division that is, eh?
Oh, Doug is smoking fat cigars regardless of what happens on Saturday evening, because he is the big winner. Because what we haven't talked about is the implosion going on in Tennessee. So there's a franchise that you believe should be sent to the SEC. There's one ran by Jim Irsay without a quarterback, and there's one that's gone down the Bill O'Brien, Mike Vrabel will fix it all for us situation. Ooh. And then the other one's got, Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson. Big win for Doug. Big win. Without further ado, let's get on to the picks portion of the show, to the wildcard portion of the show, and give you some darlings for this week.
Hello, darling.
So as I said, quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end. You can only pick one player from each of the teams who are playing this weekend. And I will let Neil go first on which quarterback do you think will be the big winner this weekend and your darling?
My darling at quarterback is a player that pretty much all the other quarterbacks, they have a system in place. We know what's expected of them. Whereas, as much as we like this team and its offense, an awful lot of its offense is pretty much, just screw it, we'll just leave him to do it. So that's why Josh Allen is the ultimate play here. The Miami Dolphins defense is not good. This game is not going to shoot out because of the quarterback on the other side. I'm sorry, Skyler, it's just not going to happen. So Josh Allen will do everything. So if of all the other quarterbacks, bear in mind this exercise, restricting the players from each team, I just think that, well, of all the other quarterbacks, they're going to need a bit of help, whereas Josh Allen goes into God mode and does it all himself.
Good choice, Neil. Good choice. I am not picking Josh Allen, as I would like a Buffalo Bill later on in this conversation. People who know me and have listened to this show a lot I love confidence bordering on arrogance with game to back it up. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you this week Joe Burrow, who was asked if he was concerned about the size of the window for the Cincinnati Bengals, given all the rosters times and rookies and whatever. And Joe Burrow's response was, the window is open as long as I am here. Or as I would like to describe it, in capital letters, shouting out loud, I am the effing window. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Burrow is going to go medieval on the Baltimore Ravens this weekend. And if he wins this week, we're probably going to have to start calling January Burrow season. Neil, running back 1.
Oh, Travis Etienne. Chargers rush defense is a joke. And I just think, as much as Doug does like the pass, I think he'd be stupid to ignore the cheese here. So I think Travis Etienne could be in for a very large workload.
I've also got Travis Etienne for exactly the same reason. I think he's been quietly excellent this year, when available and when playing. I do need to have a quick chat with Doug about that Week 17 situation, as he cost me a fancy title, but never mind. We'll let it go. And as you said, like the San Diego Chargers, I'm just going to keep them calling San Diego, they don't deserve to be LA after that Staley performance, by the way. He's demoted them back to San Diego. Their weakness is run defense. It has been since Staley took over, and Travis may take advantage of that. Need running back 2.
Christian McCaffrey. The Seattle Seahawks defense can be run on. They give up receptions to running backs out the backfield. Christian McCaffrey has been exceptional since he joined, and I don't see any reason why the 49ers on a 10-game winning streak aren't just going to keep feeding him. Obviously, they have a longer road to go to the Super Bowl than other teams in the NFC, because obviously they're playing a wildcard weekend, but go with what works.
I've not gone for CMC here. I've gone for Austin Eckler, because the man scores touchdowns. Again, 18 again this year, I believe. And given the fact that because Brandon Staley played his players for 3.5 quarters on Week 18 in a meaningless game, and that Mike Williams had to be carried onto the bus, a man that gets 100 targets in a season anyway, and Austin Eckler will probably see a lot of targets this week. A lot of dump-offs, and I expect him to get a lot of yards and a touchdown in what I believe will be a reasonably close game. So he will be involved all the way through. Neil, who's your wide receiver 1 and why is it Justin Jefferson?
It's not.
Oh, my goodness.
Justin Jefferson has had 2 very quiet games in a row. He's gone cold at the wrong time, in my opinion, especially for this team that is a bunch of frauds and shouldn't be in the playoffs.
The 13 wins says that yes, but yes, I agree with you. Who's wide receiver 1 then?
Wide receiver 1 is Jamar Chase because he's playing the Baltimore Ravens. And, I know Steve Bisciotti thinks he owns the Baltimore Ravens. He's incorrect. Jamar Chase does.
I picked Justin Jefferson because what I couldn't have is not picking him. And he goes for 10 catches for 200 yards and 3 scores, which is like Neil quite rightly pointing out that Justin Jefferson's gone cold. What he means is he has Kirk Cousins as his quarterback and he had important games and he was rubbish. I am hoping that Sunday 1 p.m. Because it's light, right? I had this conversation on Touchdown Review. If you're the only game playing in the window, does that make it prime time, even though it's 1 p.m. Eastern? This was my question. I've gone no, just. So I'm saying like Kirk gets like 400 yards, 4 touchdowns and 3 picks. Do you know, like he's all over the map? It could be one for the ages from Kirk coupons.
Kirk is going to wet the bed in glorious fashion.
I can't be having it. The Giants are winning. It's unbelievable. Wide receiver 2, Neil.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense has started to slightly go back to what was working the last 2 years, when they won the Super Bowl and, we're going all the way through the NFC like it was, like a knife through butter. We know that Tom Brady does want to get hit, so he wants to get the ball out. Well, that's Chris Godwin. That's Chris Godwin's music. The Cowboys' cornerbacks are not great. Trayvon Diggs is a playmaker, but he can be burned. There's not an awful lot opposite him, and there's not a great deal in the slot. So if Brady's just going to get the ball out of his hands quick to try and negate the Cowboys' pass rush, Godwin is going to see a lot of targets.
I was going to pick Chris Godwin because I think it's a great pick, and I think we should all just hope that Tom Brady makes it 7-0 against the Dallas Cowboys because that's funny. But I hadn't picked a Buffalo Bills player, and they're playing the Miami Dolphins, and I'm picking Stephon Diggs because he is great. It's just that simple, really. Tight end, Neil.
I'm going to go with TJ Hawkinson because he's been excellent since he came over via trade, and while I don't think the Giants are exceptional at shutting down wide receivers by any stretch of the imagination, they have bled an awful lot of production over the season to tight ends. So if Kurt's going to try and go the Tom Brady route of just get it out, give it to TJ, and let him do the damage, that could be the way to go.
I haven't picked a San Francisco 49er yet, so I am picking George Kittle for this situation. He has come to life under the arm of Brock Purdy, no? Probably just a coincidence because George Kittle is great whenever he's fit, and he's come into fitness and form while Brock Purdy's been the quarterback. But Brock Purdy's still a quarterback, and and George Kittle has got as close as anyone in recent times to matching what Travis Kelce does on a regular basis. So I'm taking George Kittle.
If George Kittle got 10 targets a game, he'd be Travis Kelce. But he doesn't because he plays for Kyle Shanahan, who loves his tight end to block, and George Kittle hurts himself by enjoying it.
I was going to say, the problem for George Kittle is he loves blocking, whereas Travis Kelce does it as a part-time pastime.
It's as Denny pointed out, I forget, what's that? The tight end for Georgia called?
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers. He said, please, whatever NFL team drafts him, do not ask him to block. Because as I said, Brock Bowers is either a very large man or a very small building.
Yeah, he's Yeah. TCU know all about Brock Bowers. Let's just put it like that. That's it for the Darling side, but obviously there's going to be players who are going to struggle this week, so let's get on to the losers. Neil, who's your quarterback loser?
It was a great story for the first half of the season, maybe a little bit more. But it's beginning to look a lot like Gino over the last few weeks. And I just don't think this is the defense that you really want to be saying to him, go on, you beat them, Gino. So, no.
So I've also picked Geno Smith. And it's not really necessarily anything against Geno Smith. It's more the case he's playing the San Francisco 49ers. Because what people will say to you is, oh, this is the third time they played each other, so this game will be closer. Yes, but this is the third time this San Francisco 49ers defense has got to watch Geno Smith play. That is not good news for Geno Smith. That is bad news for Geno Smith. So, yeah, I picked Geno Smith. Running back 1, Neil.
It can be life-affirming when we realise that we're not good at something, so we should stop doing it. And I'm hopeful that over the last few weeks, the Bucs have realised that they stink at running the ball, so there's no point doing it. So I could have gone with either of them, but I'll go with Leonard Fournette. Now, I know it's playoff Lenny, it's Lombardi Lenny, it's Super Bowl Lenny. Yeah, I don't care, mate. I really don't care less what you call yourself this week. Because, as I say, the ball's going to get spread around, get out quickly. I know that's technically in your area where you play, but I think I'd rather give it to Chris Godwin.
I've also picked Leonard Fournette as one of my running backs for a very simple situation. Like, what always amazes me about teams is that they are stupid and think things that are completely false. And we need to establish the run or whatever it is. Like, it was noted that the Washington Commanders were quoted as saying they want to run it 2 times more than they pass it because teams that do that win. And then I just poke my eyes out because that's one of the most stupid things I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, Byron Leftwich has gone from hot prospect 2 years ago to this guy hasn't got an absolute jar of glue to run an offense based on the fact he's got Tom Brady, he's got Julio Jones, he's got Chris Godwin, he's got Mike Evans, and he's like, you know what we should do on 1st and 10? Run it 1 yard. Do you know what we should do on 2nd and 9? Probably run it again. Like, get lost. Like, stop it. Like, it's not like he's got Carson Wentz as his quarterback. He's got Tom Brady. It's outrageous.
There's a few teams. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of NFL teams I'd like to watch in the company of Warren Sharp, but I would love to sit and watch him during a Bucs game.
He must lose his absolute shit. Who's your second running back, Neil?
Second running back's Joe Mixon, who has not been terribly efficient all season, and is now losing a lot of work to Samaje Perine. So I don't think Cincinnati are going to try and establish against the Ravens. So I just don't think he's going to get a very large workload.
I'm staying in the Dallas-Tampa Bay game, and I'm picking Ezekiel Elliott. One thing they haven't been anywhere near as good this year against it, but they're not a team you should run on, really, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a strength in comparison to the pass. Now, at the moment, the issue for the Dallas Cowboys is their quarterback is not great. Not great at all. However, I do think they will struggle if they try and do what Jero would prefer, which is give the ball 40 times to the guy he's paid a load of money to in Ezekiel Elliott. Wide receiver 1, Neil.
You don't need him. You've got by without him. You're going to win anyway. Do not give the ball to Deebo Samuel out of the backfield in the wild card round. In fact, don't use him at all. You've got Kittle, you've got Brandon Ayuk, you've got CMC, you've got the other players who've stepped up. Let Deebo get healthy. So, while I'm hoping for rational coaching, I would assume that is what Kyle will do. So I don't think Debo would get an awful lot of run, considering how good the other pieces, especially the boy Oak, have looked while he's been convalescing.
That is special. I understand the logic, and because I understand the logic, I fully expect Deebo Samuel to get somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 touches in the wildcard game to get him, quote unquote, warmed up. I picked Jalen Waddle. I could have picked Tyreek Hill, but I think Skyler will probably throw it more to Hill than Waddle, because Hill will probably kick off more than Waddle. And based on that, and the fact that I think this, my dad's a Miami Dolphins fan, so sometimes you wish them to have nice things, right? And like they're gonna get their doors blown off. Like it could be like the final Dan Marino playoff game. Do you know what I mean? This has got massacre written all over it. So yeah, I don't expect much from Waddle. Who's your second wide receiver, Neil?
Gabe Davis, who, let's be honest, might just suck.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair. I picked Mike Williams. Do you know why I picked Mike Williams? Because his coach decided to play him for basically the whole game when the guy is never fit. And people had to carry him on to the coach. This isn't an athlete with back issues who played in a game, got hurt, and had to be carried onto a bus.
But as I say, it's just, Brandon, why did you play him? The band. Oh, okay, yeah, that's...
It's not like this offense struggles without both him and Keenan Allen playing. Oh wait, it does. That is going to get you fired. That is how Sean Payton gets a job. Who is your second wide receiver, Neil?
I've just told you, Gabe Davis.
Oh, you have? Yeah, you've done that. Who is your tight end?
Mike, what are you doing here? Why did you sign that tag? Gesicki.
Do you remember like about week 5 when everyone said, oh, well, maybe, just maybe he's going to be used, and then he wasn't? That was cool. Do you remember when Mark Andrews was good? That was cool. Because,
what memory you have?
Because what I liked about Mark Andrews was Lamar Jackson threw him a lot, and he caught it. However, now people throw it to him, and he doesn't catch it. Like, maybe he is also stumping for Lamar Jackson to get a contract in Baltimore. By the way, in a Steve Bisciotti FU moment, he's thought, no, I'm not going to pay my franchise quarterback who won an MVP guaranteed money. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pay $100 million to a middle linebacker like it's 1985.
Don't get me started.
Dear Jets, dear Commanders, dear Panthers, dear other teams who need a quarterback, now is the time to check down the back of the couch, to check all the spare change you've got. You don't need to be told that you can't set another precedent by guaranteeing money to a quarterback. That is not your concern. Pay it. Pay that man money. If Baltimore won't, you should. Wow, those loser teams are awful. Before we go, Neil, let's give some predictions for this week. Let's just do it in chronological order, Neil, because it's easier, and that's how I've written it. Seahawks are 49ers.
I miss the days when this was the Bengals v Texans. But nevertheless, I'm going to take the 49ers. I think this could be a massacre.
My issue with this game is the same issue, really, as the Texans-Bengals game, is I want to watch the next game. However, halfway through this game, it's going to be 11 o'clock, at night, and I would have been up because you've got kids and that, and this game is done, and I've got to now, try and stay awake for an hour and a half, 2 hours before the next game starts. Blowout 49ers. Chargers at Jags, Neil.
It's the playoffs. Who do you think I'm taking?
It's Doug. It's Doug's time. I have also picked the Jacksonville Jaguars. I look forward to Emmanuel Ocho getting his receipts back on his social media quarterback situation. These two quarterbacks should be doing this for a long time, and I hope they are. I hope one of them's got a better coach, especially on offense. I've got no real issue with Brandon Staley, but the offensive coordinator needs to get in the bin. You've got someone with a rocket launcher, and you're using it like it's Drew Brees in his final year. Stop it immediately. It needs to be stopped. Also, as you've said a million times to the Chargers, look for fast lads.
Yeah.
Get them to LA immediately.
Like, why is Brandon Cooks not just coming out and saying, I'm playing for the Chargers?
No one can stop me. This is happening.
Yeah.
See that catch last week by him, by the way?
For
a flippant outrage. He's in an outpost. He's like in Outer Mongolia.
I'll be honest. I am not capable of such athletic feat when I clearly don't give a crap.
Unbelievable. It's like he accidentally did it, even though he's not asked. Oh, yeah, okay. Dolphins are Bills.
This, again, could be another absolute shoe-in. So I'm taking the Bills.
Which is a bigger shoeing? 49ers at Seahawks or Bills at Dolphins? Dolphins at Bills.
We have seen in the past moments of Geno Smith where it's just like, Jesus Christ, that was incredible. We have not seen it from Skylar Thompson. Bless him. He appears to be the only McDaniel-proof quarterback on that roster. So if they turn the Bills over, then I don't want to hear about Sirianni or Doug or Daboll or Shanahan. The coach of the year is McDaniel.
Correct. I asked Callum on the touchdown review how could they win this game, and he said snowstorm when no one's allowed to throw, which I think pretty much sums it up. I then highlighted that meant Josh Allen would run more, and he was then said probably still won't win then. Giants at Vikings.
Neither of these two teams really deserve to be here, in my opinion, but I'm going to take the Giants.
This is where we divert. We divert. I am picking the Minnesota Vikings just because, really because I think everyone else is gonna pick the Giants, and yeah, if I think the best player is Justin Jefferson on the field, I'm just gonna pick them. It'd be really close. I think it's probably the closest game of the weekend. It's probably a kick in the final minutes or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Kirk Cousins because that always works out for everyone.
You thinking the Giants and Vikings is probably going to be a one-score game is as blistering a hot take as the Panthers having an excellent roster.
No, well, one of them is a fact. Like, these teams have played 74 one-score games this season and a tie. Ravens at Bengals.
Oh, the Bengals.
Yeah, Bengals for me too, and I don't think it's close.
The Ravens on offense are unwatchable filth.
These games should be so much better than they are. Dolphins at Bills should be good. Ravens at Bengals should be good.
They were 12 weeks ago.
That's what I'm saying, and they won't be, and it really annoys me. Final game, Monday Night Football. I assume it's Monday night because Joe and Troy demanded that they get at least one Dallas Cowboys game this season. And hopefully we get Troy as angry as he's been in recent weeks. Because he is not fucking about.
Good. The Bucks are winning this game. And I don't think... Sorry, I'll rephrase that. The Cowboys are not winning this game. Now, as much as people say, it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So you're telling me that they weren't playing to beat the Commanders? Because it looked like they were trying. They just sucked at it. So that juju is... That's going to take some washing off.
There's absolutely no way I would hear from anyone that a team had a possibility to win their division, which was still well in the balance throughout the whole game, because Philadelphia were not blowing out the New York Giants. They were trying to win that game. They were trying really badly, failing miserably. This is Tom Brady versus Mike McCarthy. I don't care if it's Todd Bowles or Byron Leftwich or TD Lamb or Dak Prescott. Two of the main figures in this, one side has Tom Brady and the other side has Mike McCarthy. And people, and when I mean people, I mean the city of Las Vegas have decreed to us all that on a neutral field, they believe the Dallas Cowboys are 6 points better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No. Tampa win this game. And I can't wait to hear Joe and Troy talk about it. Nothing in commentary, with the exception of Martin Tyler listening when Liverpool scored against Manchester United, gives me more joy than Troy and Joe talking about a Dallas Cowboys loss. That's what we're in it for. That's what we should all be hoping for. Neil, that's it for this week. We'll be back, obviously, divisional round. And we'll try and keep Neil even-keeled and logical when he suggests that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to lose. Because we're not having that kind of BS round here.
Only when they play the 49ers.
We'll get to that when we get to it. Where can people catch you till we're back next week?
Just on the Twitter at Nutton13. I say my in-season stuff is finished. I'm ready for a rest. I am keeping up the Super Bowl odds tracker for Number Fire. That will be out, hopefully, on every... Oh, it won't be Monday because there's a Monday Night Football. So that'll be out next Tuesday.
I am at Mainz7 combined. We are at waxing_lyrical. Touchdown review this week was 2 groups of 3. Me, Callum and Joe talking AFC, and me, Thomas and Taib talking NFC. Lots of fun. Really enjoyed it. Got the Texas guys to talk AFC. Nearly got Joe to praise the Cincinnati Bengals. Nearly, but not quite. That's it for this week. Enjoy Wildcard weekend. As we mentioned on the touchdown review, this is a lot of football. So tread carefully and think about the game you want to leave out, where you're going to say to your wife, let's go for a drink, let's go for a meal, let's watch Strictly Come Dancing, because the games get better. So don't waste all your brownie points this week watching all the games when you can catch up later on. Think about it. These top guys are out.